CIO News. I'm Akash Mistry, your host for the broadcast at CIO News. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website cionews.co.in on CIO News LinkedIn handle. This is an exclusive fireside chat powered by Avaya on transformation through customer experience. Businesses are built by experiences they provide, and every day, millions of those experiences are delivered by Avaya. So Avaya is shaping what's next for the future of work with innovation and partnership that deliver a game-changing business benefit. So let's dive in and let me introduce my guest for today, Mr. RD Bhatnagar, Chief Technology Officer at DB Corp. Hello, Mr. Bhatnagar. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, Akash, and thank you very much, Mr. Kaul and Raksha, for having me here for this interview and a very good opportunity.
Great, great. So let me tell you more about Mr. Bhatnagar. He has 39 years of experience in print and production and information technology of leading corporates in India. He has introduced the first ever e-wallet in India in collaboration with Sam Pitroda Group. He introduced many print innovation in the industry and he got awarded for that. And one of them was 100 most innovative CIOs of India in 2016 and a gold medal for WAN IFRA for best printing quality of DNA. And we also have Mr. Adarsh Kaul who will moderate today's interview. He is India marketing lead at Avaya and he is an experienced business marketing specialist with a mix of strategic, analytic, and creative experience, and hence proven history of working with IT and telecom industry. With over 20 plus years of relevant skill expertise in the leadership communication, marketing management, CRM, partner management, etc. Over to you, Mr. Adarsh.
Yeah, okay, let me start by telling you that DB Corp is one of the largest media houses of the India, and I think everybody knows about it. We are operating out of 13 states, close to about 5.2 million copies a day, three languages. So we have Hindi, of course, it's a flagship newspaper, Dainik Bhaskar. We have the largest Gujarati newspaper as well, called as Divya Bhaskar from Gujarat, and of course from various cities. Then we have a Marathi newspaper called Divya Marathi from Maharashtra. So again, other from many more cities of Maharashtra. So these three put together actually bring makes Dainik Bhaskar Group as one of the largest media houses today, with the largest coverage also in terms of cities. So we have about close to
I I want
59 printing centers. Uh, yeah, is it
yeah,
okay?
sorry. So if you could go across, because I was kind of having some trouble in hearing you. So
Okay.
what is DB Corp? DB Corp per se, DB Corporation is Dainik Bhaskar Corporation. The whole world knows about it. But when you say DB Corp, what includes DB Corp from a product perspective? And also, if you could probably give us some numbers that go across from a perspective of what is DB Corp kind of actually ranking it out from a perspective of the circulation, the perspective of readership, the perspective of how mammoth is the operation. If you can give us a sense of that, that kind of shape up why is this chat very interesting from a customer experience perspective. So by the way, just to give you a sense of it, I've worked closely across with DB Corp in my earlier tenure at SAP as well. But what I wanted to understand was to get a sense of how customer experience kind of shapes out with you guys. So if you could just give us that 2 minute briefer on what DB Corp as a entity is, that'll really help.
Yeah, so as I was saying, the Dainik Bhaskar Group or the DB Corp is one of the largest media houses of the country today, having three flagship newspapers and, of course, a lot of digital products, which I will say a short while from now. The Dainik Bhaskar is the Hindi flagship newspaper. We have Divya Bhaskar as the largest Gujarati newspaper, and Marathi, Divya Marathi from Maharashtra. So all put together is 5.4 million copies today. And all these newspaper products also have their parallels in digital apps. So it is also one of the largest newspaper app today in the country, with close to about 55 million readers every day, active readers of this newspaper on a digital platform. So this makes us a behemoth, and we are close to about 11,000 employees, bringing out the newspapers almost every day with 59 printing centers spread across various cities. So 13 states, I must say, and 59 cities, as I can say, we have printing plants. So this makes us one of the largest newspapers of the country
You're talking about 55 million readers every day, which is
every
5.5
day.
crore, which
Road.
is probably a 4% of the Indian population, which
This is
is
one of the
reading
largest,
you
yes.
on a daily basis. And you're talking about 55 lakhs of newsprint being circulated across every day, which is going door to door, a machinery which runs across.
Correct.
That's absolutely humongous. So, if I do the maths, you're talking about technically addressing an audience of 5 crores a day from a
Yeah.
population perspective, and educated population.
Yes, of course. Who all
People
can
who
read.
understand, who can relate, who can converse, who are in the strata where India kind of aims across to being big time. God bless. This is going to be amazing. So, but then therefore my questions start across on customer experience. Sir, what is customer experience as a definition for you from a perspective of, what you do? 5 crore people. I'm sure even 1% of them have opinions, thoughts, have any ideations across, and they want to write back to you, speak to you, touch base with you. How do you map that? How do you get that customer sentiment going for you? That's something that I would love to understand. That how do you actually do that?
Yeah. So we are in the making of that, phrase of customer experience. In typically in a newspaper, a customer experience is actually measured by the number of copies that we can retain on a daily basis, so that people continue to read. But in Dainik Bhaskar, really, I must say, our promoters have endeavored, like to an extent, that every time, every center of ours actually conducts a focus group every month. So it is very difficult to reach out to various people through communication channels like a mobile or a internet or maybe phone calls. So we do a lot of focus groups everywhere. So we call different professionals of various like doctors or lawyers or teachers and housewives and blah 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 and all those kind of focus groups almost every month or two, and try to figure out whether we are still relevant, because it's very very important for any media house to be relevant to the people on the day when it comes out. And that's where we keep on changing and we keep on improving ourselves. But yes, saying so, we have recently thought, this COVID has actually given us that advantage of also creating those digital channels, which actually grew by leaps and bounds during this COVID. And that's where the interactivity started. So if you look at our app, I think there are various news apps today on the mobile, but seldom any app actually asks for interaction or feedback of every article. So whenever whichever article that we post today, we ask for feedback of people. But one of the things that has happened, with the digital, of course, with the print, there is a brand loyalty where people, if they are reading Dainik Bhaskar, they keep on reading Dainik Bhaskar. But the moment you talk about digital, people actually tend to follow events, tend to follow the incidents. So it could be the local event, which is very important. If people might go to the local edition of any other newspaper or a medium. But yes, keeping that loyalty of 555 lakh people coming on board every day and reading our newspapers, though we have created paywalls, actually speaks volumes about the kind of content and kind of traction that our app has today. But yes, one of the things that we, whenever we attend any digital forums, we are caught with that question of how do you measure how many people and what is the kind of thing they do. So we have commissioned sentimental analysis and all those kind of things in the past, as well as we continue to do today. But people actually don't tell us or say about the product. They mostly talk about a specific incident that has been carried or covered in the newspaper. So we are experimenting with other lot of things. How do we reach out to people? Because this is a humongous amount of following and database we have. Actually, we could go into another business of e-commerce, directly. So we actually go door to door every day. So that makes us, very potential lead there if you want to diverse. But yeah, we are looking at various options how we can measure it. And when I say measure, it has to be very realistic and what you can say, useful for meaningful rather. So to make this product more useful and relevant to them.
So what you're saying technically that you are actually looking at creating the channels that you require for customer experience. What you currently are doing from a perspective of customer experience, you're actually doing a focus group kind of a discussion across of your reader groups and kind of getting them together, taking feedbacks across. And there are of course sporadic, activities that are done across to gather customer experience.
Yeah.
One of the key points that you said across from a perspective while you're working on the roadmap, you said measuring your customer experience. What would be the measure of customer experience for a media house? At the end of the day, you are into dissemination of news, you are into dissemination of information. So what would be the customer experience measure across for you? Would you measure it across on the basis of the amount of feedbacks that a story has received? Would you measure it across, as you kind of pointed out, that you have a sentiment analysis process going on? So do you measure sentiment in the sense that uh, आज इंडिया इंग्लैंड के अंदर इंडिया जीत गया तो इंडिया इज फीलिंग सैड अबाउट इट और इंडिया इज फीलिंग हैप्पी अबाउट इट or India is nonchalant about the batting of for the name sake of name any batsman who didn't play well. So how does this work? What is your
The
measurement of customer
sentimental
experience?
analysis is not toward any incident, something. See, we as a newspaper have to report all the events in their, sacrosanct manner. What we would like to measure as a media house is our credibility. So that's very important. The credibility of a newspaper, what do people think on how, what kind of news and how we present our view to people. Are they in sync with the people, as people sentiment, or either we are biased or something. So we would like to measure how credible we are in the in the whole industry, number one. Number two, if whatever content we have been serving to people, is it adding to their knowledge, is it adding to their what you can say, is it adding to some value to their aspirations? Because we come from a very hinterland, we are not from super means from metros. The people in our areas are highly aspirant, they want to grow. So are we adding any value to them in terms of information, knowledge, or access to jobs, access to various opportunities? Are we able to add to that and cater to their basically aspirations to grow? So that's why these are the two measures that we primarily would like to sort of measure. While the example that you gave, there are multifold channels across country which give you that kind of sentiments, whether if we have won the match, we are happy or sad. So there are various channels, and in fact more digital channels do this, because these are all very impulsive kind of yeah, sentiments that people come out.
Mhm.
What we would like to also measure is that if whatever we are reporting, is it going against the what you can say, swarm, is it going against the wave? So if people are thinking something else and we are reporting something else, so is it contrary to that? So those are the things that we would like to measure, of course. So
Very
we are
interesting.
trying our way of doing it, but then yes, of course, I'm sure there are various tools today which can facilitate doing this on a very real time basis. And see, a newspaper cannot be reactive. So suppose we get a measure saying that okay, our credibility has gone down, or maybe we think people are thinking negative about us. We cannot do anything immediately to solve this, because we are a newspaper. Of course, it takes a time. People might take some content in such in in their way of interpretation. So we have to first cool it down and sort of evaluate, analyze, and then respond rather than react. So that is where what we want to do.
Which actually gets me to my next question, which is very, very imperative when it comes down to you guys, especially the media houses. So, you know, given the scenario of social media, which is therefore carrying the great name tag of media, uh, how are you tapping into the social media from a perspective of a the repertoire of Dainik Bhaskar, which is what is spoken about that from a brand perspective in social. That's one, and I'm sure it'll be good things because considering the number of eyeballs that you're getting, of course, people wouldn't be bad mouthing it if they didn't want to read it. But having said that, how would you actually use social media from a perspective of mechanism of news gathering as well as also a feedback across or probably suggestions across down to DB? So for example, I could I would want to voice up the fact this thing that there are two people fighting downstairs and one person is stabbed, and I immediately put it across on my Twitter, on my Insta, saying that, hey, Dainik Bhaskar, guess what, two people stabbed each other across just beneath me. And I'm sure that those mechanisms will be available to you from crime beats, etc., etc. But this is real time. So
Real
how do you
time.
use social media for capturing news and probably use that across in your
Yeah.
entire customer experience portfolio?
Exactly, that's what I wanted to tell you about social media. So we normally don't, push certain things to social media. We do have pages on Twitter and Insta and Facebooks and all that. We do have our pages and we do push our contents, but it's the other way around, as you rightly said, that a real time, story comes through social media or a digital engine. So what we have done, we have created a listening software, and which is directly integrated with our editorial software. So what happens is there are Twitter feeds, there are RSS feeds, there are various news television feeds, and of course a lot of feeds coming from localites. So that is integrated as a palette in a newspaper in a editorial operations system, where these feeds based on the local area. For example, Jaipur feeds will be coming to the Jaipur center, or the Bhopal feed will be coming to the Bhopal center. Of course, there are national level feeds also, which gets enhanced or promoted by these editors, that this feed is not only belongs to Jaipur, but it can be taken as a national news. So the journalists who are doing or sitting or collating all these news or curating this news also have the visibility of the feeds coming to them. It could be a direct page also of a particular journalist. So he might be like in radios we have very promising and very popular RJs who keep on getting this kind of news. So they also push all these news or maybe the feeds to the editorial directly. So that really makes our editorial system very robust and fantastic in these terms. For example, there is an incident, the smaller or very small incident that you spoke about can definitely have the eyeballs of the local journalist sitting there, while he has all the traditional channels, but he will definitely have this information also on his deck, that something has happened and it needs to be act immediately. Now, one thing which is of course very challenging is to how many incidents that we can sort of respond or react. Because if you look at any local level thing, we have close to about 7,000 news items on an average coming on a daily basis. Now to have a real look at it, and there will be a battery of people who can see through this content and maybe just promote certain contents to be taken on the newspaper. But here I think uh, artificial intelligence that we are working on building, which will come into place where it picks up more relevant. Suppose the news is coming from an area which is very sensitive, or the area from where it is very prominent, the people very high net worth people stay, or there is a huge marketplace. If this news of stabbing is coming from there, it is picked up and actually thrown as a priority for us. We have also experienced that any news that comes from social media and digital medium, almost close to 60 to 70% of this news is fake. And there's a humongous amount of time lost of our journalists actually cross verifying whether this is good or bad. So that's one area which is very very challenging for us. I don't know if there could be any module or any model in the future through which, if we can pass this news, it can tell us the probability of this that being genuine or not. So this is one thing that we are really thinking in terms of building up as a technology stack. Let's see how that happens.
Well, on this note, I would love to say this thing that all listeners or all viewers of this thing, DB Corp is looking at a product where all fake news can be verified across. Any startup who wishes to get into a product like this, please contact Mr. Bhatnagar. I'm sure he would love to look at it. Having
Yeah,
said
yeah.
that, this gets me to a completely different question across from a perspective. 11,000 people. I'm sure the IT team will be equally to handle them up. You are not just working the entire, you mentioned the SAP part of it, so you're not just working the entire, the billing, the FICO, etc., from a perspective, the purchases, all of that stuff I'm not even getting into. I'm trying to say 11,000 people, just connecting them and getting them occupied across to handle this machinery. You know, what is in the day of RD Bhatnagar? That's what I want to know. When he starts his day,
I,
what does he do across? Because 11,000 admi, and starting across, and it's a 24-hour operation. You print in the night, you distribute in the morning. By
yeah.
afternoon, you get collections, and then there is a separate team which is working on edit, and then there is a separate team which is working across on finances. Somebody is procuring. What is the day of RD Bhatnagar? Because the fires that he'll have across will be fires across the country. You already mentioned 13 different states where you're printing. So if you could just give us a sense of that.
See, and a newspaper, a typical newspaper office, it's is highly mechanical because see, we have to bring out a product day on day because we just can't push in the day the product that we produced yesterday today. So the product that we have actually published just vanishes away within 2 hours. So we, and the entire newspaper office is highly mechanical in terms of its operations. So it starts a day, it I don't know when it starts because it's a sunrise and a sunset both together for us. So we are always on. So we are always like awake, you must say. So people start the moment we publish the newspaper for today, we immediately start for the next day. So we are actually working for the product for tomorrow in a previous day. So the reporters go out in the field, look out for things happening, and in fact they have a lot of leads also. And there are a lot of events which are in the making, so they already have what kind of event is going to culminate today. So they go out in the field and collect that kind of an information. Of course, finance and everything, it is trickling all the time now. It used to be the collection used to be only in the morning for the circulation. The advertising, of course, has some credit period, but today with the digital, the revenues are tickling every second. So that has to be properly maintained. So it does not involve any manual process. It is the computers that do it. We also know there's a limitation. You can't keep on counting your money every second. So it is the computer that does it. Similarly, any event that is happening on the field, there are journalists who are now, we call them as mojos. So they are actually converted from a print journalist to what you can omni journalist. So they produce this news for various channels. So even the radio picks up, the digital picks up, the mobile team picks up, and then of course this whole thing is then cooked in a very tastier manner and then produced in the newspaper next day. So of course reporters are also on their hooks. Now if you typically look at technology, in the print center, what happens, we occupy the printing machines only for 4 hours at the night. So it starts from 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock. That's the only window that we have. But to ensure that these machine runs error free without even a single minute downtime, we have to spend our entire day checking each and every part and parcel of that machine that it will work tonight. So that is the team. We have the three different teams doing it. We have production operations team who keeps the machine operationally okay. Then, of course, there is a huge engineering team which looks after all the critical parts that they have to work throughout the night. And then one team is there which makes, which we call as a make ready kind of a thing. So the moment we have to start printing, there is a team which makes ready the entire machine because taking the newspaper, which is in terms of rolls, has to be done. And of course, then there's a printing crew who prints the whole machine. Now, if you look at my typical day, how I operate, and if so many centers being there, and if everything is going on correctly or not, so we have developed a lot of small applications for different modules, and the entire dashboard comes to us. So I know at any given point of time if my lease lines are working or properly or not. Is there any drops there? Are all the lines, you can say these network lines, perfectly okay? Number one. Number two, if my staff is present, how many of them are not there, and how many of them we need to uh, uh, bring them into make that what you can say, that minimum quotary full. Then how many news have come by this time? The editor also should know that I have to say fit in this many square centimeters of news tonight. How much of that has come at any given point of time? So they can be well prepared. Suppose there is a 4-page pullout for a center, and by the time the page needs to be released, and he has only 40% news 2 hours before, so he has to prepare all that backup so he can pull out the content that has been already produced and keep ready so that he is available. We also get to know the advertisements that are booked in real time at what time. So how many advertisements in the entire newspaper or every edition is available at any given point of time also comes on a dashboard. And of course similarly, you have we have an application for attendance this thing which is Hono, which is also real time. People can just come in and walk in through that, and the app actually marks their attendance. And every department like SAP is one of our ERPs to take care of our finance, accounting, ad booking. Then Matrix is our homegrown editorial system, which I told you about, that it also plugs in into social media and everything. It's a very large and rugged software which gives editors it is on their tips. So we can work from anywhere anytime. without and even on any device, I must say, a person can, a journalist can also file his story right from the smallest village anywhere in India, and it directly comes to the main editorial system where, and in real time, in just seconds. So that is the kind of technology we've built around. And 95% of our staff was working from home the very second day when this lockdown was declared, and that was because of the leverage of cloud technology that we already had adopted. We could do this. Of course, we had not envisaged this, that 90%, 95% of the people will be working from home. Especially, we have to make, the editors have to meet together, face to face, and talk a lot about the news and instances. So we, as we are talking now, so we have Google collaboration suite as in our organization. So we used Hangouts at that moment of time. Of course, it's called Meet now, and a
Mhm.
very you can say useful way. And Google Sheets is one of the things where today, on our journalists can work on a single story, having a lot of collaboration. You could have 4 or 5 people working on the same story on the same page using this collaboration. So that has really, this technology has really facilitated the media companies to a very, very large extent.
So technically, you kind of stole both my questions that I was coming to. But what I understand from what you said is that for DB Corp, cloud is the way. There is nothing that will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
on.
yeah.
You're completely a cloud shop and a firm believer in the way cloud functions out. And you kind of pointed that out as well. One final question, Mr. Bhatnagar, and I'd love to kind of, when you sum it up from a perspective, what is more critical for you? Uh, Customer experience, and in your case, especially, I generally don't ask this across a number of other people because, you know, employee strength of 50, 100, 200, 300 doesn't really need it. But what is critical for you, and how do you devote or divide your time across? You've got a 11,000 strong employee base, and then you've got whatever 5% of the Indian population as your customer base. How do you manage? What is more important to you, your employee experience or your customer experience, or a mix of both? And if there is a mix, I'm going to be putting you in a spot. What is your mix percentage? So if I have to devote 100% of my time, given that I work 10 hours in a day, given your position, you would probably be, उस 10 घंटे में, what is the time that you spend across on tightening up your internal processes and handling your internal audiences? And what is the kind of time that you spend across on your external audience, which is, as I said, 5% of the Indian population or 4% of the Indian population?
See, as far as the organization is concerned, we have an internal tagline, Kendra mein Pathak, which means, of course, a customer.
Ah,
Kendra mein Pathak.
the
So,
reader is the center of the universe.
center of everything. So, even if a journalist is writing a story, he is not writing that story as an RD Bhatnagar, he is writing a story keeping Mr. Kaul in mind. That what did he want to read tomorrow morning of this incident? So that is one thing which we have propagate in a huge way. And you won't believe it, within our software we have a checklist कि आपने checklist में what have you done, what is the value add in this particular story, have you added the facts, have you spell checked, have you sort of given factual or references in the story. And the journalist, while he's doing his story, he has to check mark all that, so that he has in mind that the story is complete with all aspects of storytelling. Number one. Number two, if you look at our perspective, we are technologists, so we are in the back end. So for us, of course, the team is prime, because as far as the customers are concerned, there are, of course, there are departments, the sales guys are there, and then the editorial is there, and the marketing is there. But at the same time, each and every employee has to ingrain himself that whatever he is doing, he's doing for the product, he's doing for the customer. Number one. For the employees, we follow a core value system. So we have a, we call that as a great. So G is for ground connect, R is for result oriented, E is for emotional quotient, A is for being analytical, and T is for trendsetter. So we look at all these traits on a everyday basis, that person who's working, including me, has to see what I have done great today in terms of achieving these core values. And that's where we stick together, and we also have, of course, a lot of recognition and rewards to all these people who actually follow these traits. But everything is ingrained down. We know that we have to do something great today. So we know that in the great we have these five attributes, and what are we doing towards achieving that? So this keeps us engaged, towards each other.
I'm going to copy this great part of it. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Bhatnagar, on that note. Seriously, absolutely enjoyable. I'm not lying to you. A complete insight into how does the largest media house of the country function. Thank you very much for your time again.
I would
Thank you.
also like to thank you, sir, for providing this opportunity. It is very, lesser these opportunities. It comes to people working in the background. People are out of faces, they work in the foreground, so they have all the opportunity of saying. But yes, this is a very great organization, I must say. I really love it and continue to
Absolutely love the
work
fact that
as
Mr.
long as I
Bhatnagar,
can.
the true heroes who are running the faces of DB Corp are actually visible out, because whatever said and done, you kind of answered it on Google Meet when you said that, during COVID, 95% of the team was grounded up and you got GCP working across
Yep.
backend and got it done in 2 days. So that truly talks about the fact that you got the business running. That is why technologists are very, very important for the business. Thank you again, Akash, for doing this. Thank you, Mr. Bhatnagar. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Akash. Thank you, Raksha. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Nagar, for sharing your journey and views, of course, with us. And thank you, Mr. Adarsh, for driving the session.